Now, some information as far as writing the big book. The big book, if you want to write the blockbuster bestseller. The big book must appear, must appeal to the largest number of readers possible. If you're into writing literary works, I think it's fantastic and wonderful. God bless you. But as far as money is concerned, it's the blockbuster that will be the moneymaker for you, so go for it if you want to. The big book must appeal to the largest number of readers for it to be a likely bestseller. And it will also get you the biggest advance. For those of you who are interested, as far as advances are concerned, most people get an advance for their book of approximately $12,000 US. Approximately $12,000 US. You get half of it when you sign the contract, half of it when you deliver, which in my case is often the same day. But you get half, it's broken up half and half. Actually, often I'll write the book and then let it sit for several weeks so that the editor thinks I worked longer on it than I did. It must have, the big blockbuster book must have high stakes. Must have high stakes. Someone's going to die. A nation, the two major nations are going to come to war. Whatever happens to be, the entire universe is going to blow up. High stakes. Always high stakes for a character, for a family, for a whole nation. Are also larger than life characters. You can't have a blockbuster about the girl next door kind of situation. These are larger than life characters. They must be captains of industry or leaders of nations, or they must be spies or assassins or whatever. They must be larger than life individuals. Next one is the main character must do extraordinary things. Extraordinary things. They must be the Godfather, or they must kill people, and also collect art. Whatever happens to be, they must be larger than life characters. A high concept. By a high concept, I mean if you actually thought about the logic of the concept of the story, it would be laughingly ridiculous. You couldn't possibly believe that anyone would try to pull off a story based on that premise. Young man comes home from college to find that his uncle has murdered his father and married his mother, and no one seems to be bothered about the whole thing. Okay? Add in a ghost and you got Hamlet. All right? That's Hamlet. You get to Ken Follett is also on Spies. If you get to Stephen King. Stephen King wrote a book called Christine. This is about a 1957 Chev that lives. Weird. I mean, just off the wall. You're going to write a story about a 1957 that actually lives and is rather nasty to everybody who gets near it? Yep. Well, it's a bestseller. If the premise is off the wall, really off the wall, it's more likely to be a bestseller. If it's about some guy who goes to work every day and it's going to be a real dull, it really is. People want to escape. Multiple points of view as well. You've got to be able to tell the story through different characters. And through which character do you tell the story? Grammatically, it doesn't make any difference how I say that. I'm going to screw it up. Through whose eyes do you tell the story? Well, you always tell the story through the eyes of the character who has the most to lose or the most to gain in that particular situation. If two people are running through the tunnels of New York subway system, and one is trying to kill the other with a revolver, through whose eyes should that scene be told? Always through the eyes of the person who's about to be shot or could be shot, because they have the most to lose. The person who's more emotionally involved in that scene is always the person through whose eyes you tell that story. Also, you have to make sure that people like the characters. Anyone ever read a book in which you didn't like the people who were in the book? Okay, it was a boring book. You didn't really like that because the author made it so that no one liked the characters. You've got to be able to hold on to your microphone. You've got to be able to make the characters likable. Please make them likable. Next, the setting. Yes, make sure that it is a setting about which people would like to know. They'd like to visit it, they'd like to go there, they're intrigued by it. It could be as esoteric as Venice or Paris or the Arctic. It could be as mundane as the inner workings of a hotel or the inner workings of an airport. Sound familiar at all? So that kind of situation where you want the setting to be as intriguing as possible, not the run-of-the-mill setting. And in case you're still having problems as far as getting your story going, here's how to buy a plot, best-selling plot, for 50 cents. Someone once said to me, there's only 2 plots in the world, isn't there? And my response is, I don't know, which ones do you think are 2 plots? Some people will say there are 20 plots, and my response is, it doesn't make any difference how many plots you think there are. Why bother developing a new one if there are already ones that are out there? People say, you mean you get other people's plots? Of course you do. That's what we do all the time. I'll give you an example of that in a few seconds. If buying a best-selling plot for 50 cents, here's how you do it. You go to the local plot shop, also known as the used bookstore. You take a stroll through there and you find a book that has a big seal on it saying bestseller. then you know that it's certified a best-selling plot. You read that book and you take the plot and you just copy down. This will happen, this and this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Well, you can't just steal it word for word, can you? Well, many do, but you don't have to do that. If it's a romance, make it a Western. If it's a Western, make it a science fiction. If it's a science fiction, make it a horror. Change the names around. Change the genders of the situation. Change whatever happens to be. Just change this, change that, change the other thing, and you've got a best-selling same thing over and over again. I can't tell you how often I've seen a book that could have easily been titled Jack and the Beanstalk, over and over and over again, or Cinderella. How often have we seen Cinderella over and over and over again? Give you an example. It happened to me last year. I was watching a movie on our television, which is where I usually watch television. Is on our television. It was a movie. It was called Independence Day. Anyone see that movie, Independence Day? Nobody. Okay. If you saw the movie Independence Day, I was watching it. Now, I'm an old movie buff. I love to watch old movies. And I'm getting halfway through Independence Day, and I'm thinking to myself, this is H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. It's exactly the same as H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Now, my wife is not an old movie buff at all, so she's quite enjoying this movie, and I'm not going to say anything that's going to bother her or make it less enjoyable to her. But as we're getting nearer and nearer the end, if you cast your mind back to H.G. Wells' in the movie War of the Worlds, it ended because the Martians were killed by an Earth bacteria. They were killed by an Earth bacteria. Humankind could not destroy them, but an Earth bacteria did because they were not acclimatized to an Earth bacteria. And as we're getting near the end of Independence Day, huge special effects and so forth, I'm thinking, my gosh, are they going to kill it with an Earth bacteria? No, 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 we change things around. A computer virus.